You're listening to Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles episode 81, featuring Amazing Spider-Man number 225 and Uncanny X-Men number 154 from October and November 1981. Hello and welcome to the 81st episode of Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles podcast. I am your host, Pat, aka DJ Chris Statos. Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles is a podcast that will journal the Amazing Spider-Man comic book issues read chronologically by their release date, along with another comic from my collection, either in digital, in a trade, or from the many long boxes stashed away in my basement. Each episode will provide short recaps, reviews, and ratings of the issues for that release date. The goal is to keep me actively reading through my collection and having some fun along the way, talking about them comics with my friends. Speaking about my friends, joining me for this 81st episode. Ooh, that means we're in like 19 more episodes away from 100. Wow.
I can verify that, Pat. I have just enough fingers and toes to verify.
Thank you, Delvin. Thank you for that verification. I was afraid I was doing my math wrong. I'm glad that you were able to help me. All right, well, let's go ahead and bring in Jarrett Elbrick, a.k.a. Death Probe.
Hey, Pat, and all my other fellow podcasters here and the guests in the chat. Man, it's a bummer that Jason just came off the mic because I was going to tell him that I spent some time this week with Mike Albrick, and it turns out that's Jason's dad.
What?
Yeah, isn't he going to be surprised when he headsets back on?
Really?
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, Jason never knew it.
I heard he was a good pilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I spent some time this week with a pilot named Mike Albrick, and turns out, Jason, that's your dad.
Oh,
You know,
I had dreams and visions.
did you ever have like a dream where you would just see your dad and he's running towards the helicopter and he's yelling back at you he's just yelling, "Get to the chopper!"
No, usually he yells, "You're a disappointment."
Oh, that went a long way for nothing, but
Not for nothing.
yeah. Anyway, speaking about the other Elbricks, let's go to Jason the Weasel Skull Elbrick. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. You know, I've been reading poetry and I've been making my list of fools. And I've got this pop gun that I'm going to use to take care of business. Too many fools, you know, on this planet. You got these fools that all they do is sit around and read comic books and, you know, they podcast about comic books like a couple of idiots. And sometimes they do like action films too and talk about action films. Like the world needs these people.
Sounds
like
dumb.
They need these people, you know?
No, like who needs two action film guys? Like two fools when
Two
you got
fools.
like two
That's
fools.
right.
And when you got really cool guys like me and three other guys that do a show.
That's right. And, you know, they come up with nicknames, stupid little nicknames like Weasel. Oh, wait a minute. I've got some introspection I got to do. Poetry, man, poetry. Remember, you're civilized. These guys are pain in the butts, but they can get on these nuts. There we go.
Oh,
Now I'm enlightened.
That's a good rebound, Jason.
Thank you.
yes, definitely. Let's go ahead and go to Delvin the Dark Web Williams.
Hey, Pat. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So I have this bug problem in my house and really been getting on my nerves, just like bugs through the ceiling, bugs crawling up through the floor. So like I figured the only logical solution, being a calm, rational leader that I am, is to burn my whole house down.
Mm-hmm.
Which one would do? Yeah.
You know, you burn the house down, you don't have to worry about any bugs anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of your teammates is a billionaire.
True.
You know.
Angel! I burned my house down again. Get over here. It's the only thing you're useful for.
The bugs were on me.
You guys keep me on the team for my wings, right? Yeah,
Yes,
it's the wings.
It's the wings.
And my good looks, but oh man, that's a good one, Delvin. That is a good one. Well, we are pleased to welcome joining us on this episode is a Crusader Club member, and it is Gene Hendricks. Hey, Gene, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, there were some that believed I would never be on a network show again after I brought Quasar number 2 to Crusade Miss, but I'm not responsible for what a fool believes.
No.
Gene, that's the best intro of the day, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, I pity those fools who don't like the Quasar.
Be the fool.
Gene, I'm just looking at the schedule, and you're kind of far behind on the next Sherlock Holmes that you were supposed to.
Oh, yeah. Let me get on that.
After you're done here, Gene, we're going to have you talk to Laurel. There's a few things you guys can work out since she's like, Gene hasn't been punching in. What's going on?
Yeah,
we're still paying him.
Yeah, because I haven't signed enough paperwork recently. Yeah, thanks.
Well, we're glad to have you here, Gene, joining us on this episode. And we're also glad to have the people in the chat with us as well, too. But if you're just listening along later on in podcast form, you can go ahead and join us as well by leaving us a voicemail that we will play later on in the show. You can leave a message at 707-532-5269. That number again is 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone!
Now, before we get started with this episode's issue, let's go ahead and take a quick podcast promo break, and we will be right back.
Back in 1940, 8 sensational heroes united to create the world's very first superhero team, the Justice Society of America. Now, 85 years later, we're gathering podcasters and bloggers from around the globe for a month-long celebration in an event we're calling JS April. Throughout April 2025, join dozens of content creators as they each share their own unique tributes to the original and greatest superhero team, including all-star podcasters and bloggers like
Justice Society presents
the LONGBOX CRUSADE podcast,
Campus Comics Cast,
Supergirl Comic Box Commentary,
the Quarter Bin Podcast,
the Bat Pod,
the Earth 2 Podcast,
FW Team Up,
Diana Prince is the new Wonder Woman,
Fanholes Podcast,
Back to the Bins,
Coffee and Comics,
the Huntress Podcast,
*51.blogspot.com,
Justice Society Origins, a part of John Reed's Comics,
DC Specialcast,
Between the Pages blog,
The Outcasters, a Batman and the Outsiders podcast,
A World on Fire, an All-Star Squadron podcast,
JLA Stories and Friends,
The Monitor Tapes,
a Crisis on Infinite Earths podcast,
Lords of Order, a DC's Dr. Fate fan podcast,
David M. Gallagher at Medium.com,
JSA in the 90s,
Justice League Legacies,
DC Secret Files podcast,
Mike's Geek World,
Pop Culture Affidavit,
the Source Material Comics podcast,
That Giffen Show,
Worst Collection Ever,
The Fantastic Four.
It all comes back to Superman.
And that's just some of the podcasters and bloggers who'll be joining in the celebration. Get ready for a thrilling month of beloved characters, fascinating insights, and incredible stories. Follow the action on social media with the hashtag JSApril, and visit our website for a complete list of participating podcasters, bloggers, and what they're each covering at fireandwaterpodcast.com/JSApril.
Welcome back from the break. Now let's get to the first featured comic for this episode, and it is Amazing Spider-Man number 225. The credits for this issue are provided by Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Publisher for this was Marvel. It's got a cover date of February 1982, but its on sale date was October 27th, 1981. Yeah, that's right. There were 2 issues of Spider-Man released in October of 1981.
Huh.
Exactly. I was surprised too when I went through and found that out. I don't know why. In November, there isn't a release in November at all for the Amazing Spider-Man in November. Hence why we're doing October/November for this episode. Cover price was 60 cents. Editor is Thomas P. DeFalco.
Superstar.
Writer is Roger Stern. Penciler is John Romita Jr. Inker goes to Bob Wycheck. Letterer is Joseph Rosen. And the Color Me Bad colorist is Glennis Wee.
Oh, this issue needed a red light. It really did.
Wow, that's coming a lot from Delvin, so I can't wait to get into this one.
It's behind the scenes. Delvin texted me personally with his sadness.
Oh, did he?
Let's see how the scores come out.
Boy. So all of a sudden, the tables are turning where Delvin is like Jared is for the X-Men.
Woo!
We'll find out. Let's go ahead and find out where you can read along with us in this. You can find that on Spider-Man Magazine #1, also on Backpack Marvel's Spider-Man trade paperback from 2000, or in the Essential Spider-Man Volume 10 trade paperback. You can also find it in Spider-Man Nothing Can't Stop the Juggernaut hardcover, or Spider-Man by Roger Stern Omnibus, or also Marvel Masterworks Volume 293 of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 22. Cover credits go to John Romita Jr. and inker is Frank Giacoa. I'm getting good at these names.
I don't like it.
I'm surprised. I've been replaced.
That's what I'm thinking.
By a robot. AI's got me. Speaking about the cover, let's go ahead and get a cover description from Jared.
All right, boys. We're bringing back an old trope, so get ready for doing sound effects when I call your name. The Marvel Comics Group banner is non-existent because of a black and white 10-speed bike ad. Jason, bike, bell, sound effect. Ching, 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 ching. The logo is red. It was too good. It got me. The logo is red with black highlights, includes the webs, and Spidey swings in his yellow corner box. I need a swinging sound effect. Delvin.
Whoosh.
There we go. The main action is a whole bunch of Spider-Men gallivanting around the centerpiece of the cover. I need a bunch of little Spider-Man gallivanting sound effect, Pat. What's that sound like? Good enough. The centerpiece of the cover? Zorro. Give me a whip sound, Gene Hendricks.
Which?
That's good, too. No, I'm just being foolish. It's not Zorro. It's the Fool Killer.
Jared, hold on. We can't go on without hearing the Wisconsin whip. I'm sorry.
Pat, can we hear your whip, please?
See, that's the part I was waiting for, and you're going to get it. But here we go.
It's terrible. All right. Done with that. Where was I? It's not Zorro. I was being foolish. It's the Fool Killer, and he looks to be in mid-maniacal laugh, which means I think it goes back to Jason. That wasn't really an effect. He just came off mute. That's what he was doing anyway. And that's about it. There's no blurbs of any kind and just a lot of yellow in the background. Back to you, Pat.
Well, I am yellow with envy for everybody's sound effects. That was a cool bit that we did for a while, and I'm glad it made its way back. I like recycling bits, and that's what we're all about on this network, is just all about recycled bits. Speaking about recycled bits, let's go ahead and get into some quick cover thoughts on this issue. And we will start with Gene. What's your thoughts on this cover?
It's frankly kind of boring. You have to remember, going into this, I had heard of the Fool Killer, but that's it. I had never read anything with him, didn't recognize him on the cover, so I'm like, oh, okay. Apparently Spidey got cloned and is fighting a giant. All right, let's see what happens.
Yeah, this is a different kind of one, and I didn't know who the Fool Killer was at all either. I thought, man, this guy kind of looks kind of interesting. He's got that swashbuckling kind of look to him. I like those kind of boots. I think they're kind of cool looking boots where you always have where they fold down like that, and a hat looks interesting. But yeah,
I'm sure there's a name for the boots. Does anyone know the name of that type of boot? Some fashionista in the chat, perhaps.
I would like to know. Maybe I could get some. Crusade Miss is coming up. Maybe I can get some fine fashion boots, some fancy boots for me to wear around the house, especially in the snow here in Wisconsin. I can definitely.
Then you'll need boots with the fur.
Yes. Well, I'd have my summer ones, and then I'd have some nice ones with the fur.
They're called brogues or buccaneers.
Ooh, buccaneers. All right. I love them. Well, let's go ahead and go to Jarrett. What's your thoughts on the cover?
Kind of like Gene. It's, it gets the impression of, is the Fool Killer a giant? I wasn't so concerned about clone Spidey. I thought he was just doing a lot around him, a lot of movement all at once, but it's different and it's interesting. It's, I think it kind of smacks of maybe done. I think you mentioned they did 2 issues this month.
Correct.
One at the beginning, one at the end. So there's no background work. It's like Romita Jr. was just like, I'm just going to draw a cool picture of the Fool Killer. And they're like, well, we got to have Spider-Man on this cover. And he's like, damn, I drew him so big. So I'll put a bunch of little Spideys zipping around. It has a fun factor. There's a fun factor to it that it's bright and it's interesting. But I guess that's about all it has going for it. Except it's good. It's John Romita, so it's a good drawing.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
It is a little different. And I think you kind of played it off right with that yellow background. It's kind of like, this reminds me of with the little Spider-Mans, if you had that little peel and put the little, I can't
color
remember.
Forms.
Color forms, yes.
Color forms, yeah.
Yeah, if you had different Spidey in positions and moving them around. Let's go to Delvin. What's your thoughts on the cover?
I think that the editors, we have some signs it's a rush, right? This cover is very similar to 224. I know what 224 looks like because, well, not only did we cover it last month, but also because I just put the comic book up because I'm slow about doing that. So sure enough, it was like Vulture, and then there was a bunch of Spider-Man kind of like going around here.
Well,
and now there's, Fool Killer, and there's a bunch of Spidey sort of, doing the dance around him. The drawing of Fool Killer is very, very good. Cannot question it at all. But they took some liberties here. Like you need some letters there to say exactly who that is. I don't think at any point that the Fool Killer has been around that anyone knows who the hell Fool Killer is. So that where you can see him on the cover, it's like, oh my God, that's Fool Killer. No, you could have done that with the You could have done it with the Vulture. You could do that with Doc Ock. You could do that with, I was going to say Venom. Venom has not been created at this point, but you get what I'm saying. Like there's some foes you can do that with. You can't do that with Fool Killer. And so it's a surprise that they didn't, come up with some, fancy caption at the end that just mentioned that this bad guy is Fool Killer. If he is indeed a bad guy at all, because you're just simply assuming that he is because Spider-Man's fighting.
Yeah, that's a good point, Delvin, that there isn't any other blurb going on here besides the chance to win that 10-speed bike that Jason is still yearning for right now. Speaking about winning the 10-speed bike, let's go to Jason. Jason, did you win one?
Jason ain't here.
Jason dropped off.
Speaking about Jason, he's dropped.
He texted me and said he couldn't get to stay on, so he's out.
He's out.
Fool Killer has claimed his first victim.
Fool, maybe he'll be back again. Delvin, are there any comments in the chat for this issue?
There's a few. Auburn Elvis, being his normal pugilistic self in the comments, says, for anyone who gives this cover less than a 4, I challenge you to come up with a better cover where you can examine an insane person's tonsils. That just leaves way too much room for interpretation, Auburn Elvis. I'm going to move on. Matt Paso says, I give this cover a 4 easily. I would give it a 4.5 for the bike banner, but that's not allowed. Back down to 4. Oh, Matt, you're working your way out of a few people's good graces on the show. Justin, welcome, Justin, by the way, says, I wonder if those are various interior Spideys copied and pasted, as it were, the old-fashioned way. And let's see, Bot Boy Versus says, lots of energy from the Spidey on the cover. The yellow makes the characters pop. I even know that much, hearing the discussions that Jared has had about the color wheel, about yellow being a primary color, and so is blue and red, so it pops immediately. And it's like, there's black, but that black is tinged with blue, so makes sense. How'd I do, Jared?
Good.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And was there anything else? Matt Paso says, I like the cover. Good shadowing, interesting perspective, multiple Spidey action poses, good times.
All right. Well, now that we've gotten some comments out of the way from our watchers in the chat, let's go ahead and get to the cover ratings. And some ratings were already put out there, but let's see what the panelists here on the show put this at. And we will go to Gene. Start us off, Gene. Give us that level of where you're at on this one.
All right. Well,
wait. Before you do, Gene.
I was going to say, what kind of rating system are we going with?
well, Gene, I'm glad you asked. Here on Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles, we have a 1 through 5 rating system. 5 is you loved it. It tickled your tummy feathers. 4, you really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it.
No.
And 1, you hated it. It ruffled your tummy feathers. Now, Gene, how would you rate that?
I'm going to give it a 3. Like Delvin said, there's nothing wrong with the art. It is very well done. I like Romita Jr. in this era. This is kind of when I first came to Spider-Man. It's just, it doesn't grab me. It says, yeah, hey, this is what's going on in the story. We're not going to tell you anything about it, but this is kind of what's going on in the story. All right. So it sort of does the job. It doesn't make me want to say, yes, I must have this. And it doesn't say, no, I'm never going to buy it. It's middle of the road.
Fair enough. Let's go ahead and go to Jarrett.
I'm going to echo Gene. Yeah, I like it 2 or 3. It's weird, which drags it down. It's fun, which lifts it up. It's just going to be a pretty smile on my face 3.
I agree with you guys as well, too. We'll go ahead and go to Delvin for your thoughts on your rating for this issue.
And before we get to my thoughts, Matt Passo says, I already mentioned that Matt gave it a 4. Kathy gave it a 3, says I like simplicity, but maybe just too simple. And Chris at BTON Batbutts says that this looks like a cover swipe from Amazing Spider-Man 4-7, which Auburn Elvis checked and said, yes, that's correct. It is kind of a borrow from Amazing Spider-Man 47. I'm at a 3 with you guys. Good cover, good drawings by Romita Jr. It's Fool Killer, who is nowhere near an A-lister to me, much like Kraven the Hunter is. See, that's a 4 cover.
Oh, yeah.
This is the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 47, 4 cover. Amazing Spider-Man 225, 3 cover. Wow. Solely because it's Fool Killer and it's not Kraven the Hunter.
Very interesting. And what a great callback there, Chris. And thank you, Jared, for getting that in there really quick. Well, guys, guess what? It's time to knock on that door because I'm at a 3 as well on this one. So you know what that means. Knock on the door. We're rating this a 3.
Gotta rate it a 3.
Where you have Spider-Man and Spider-Man and Spider-Man and a fool. All right. Oh, now that we got the cover, rating, and description out of the way, let's go ahead and go to Delvin to see what's in this story with a story synopsis.
The title of this issue is Fools Like Us. Does this issue need a synopsis? Probably. Do I feel like giving it? If I'm honest, no. But this is Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles, and I have to do some chronicling, right? It's written in the contract I got roped into. My fiddle was broken that day. Anyway, the action starts with Fool Killer killing 2 FBI agents because he considers them fools. That's his gimmick. Powerful gun. Kills fools. Who is Fool Killer? An English lit major named Greg Salinger, who is friendly with Peter Parker as Pete is his grad assistant. As Fool Killer, he does not like Spidey because Spidey keeps thwarting his capers, such as taking out a registrar, who is a fool, and the people who work in the ESU mailroom. Also, fools. Spidey, through the help of the Daily Bugle and his good old Spidey sense, eventually tracks down Salinger, and though Salinger manages to escape Spidey, Fool Killer realizes that he is a fool and tries to off himself But Spidey will not let him do that, and instead gets Greg the help he so desperately needs. So yeah, another way of saying that is Spidey pitied the fool. I mean, that joke was no worse than this issue. Back to you, Pat.
Ellen, I love it when your synopsises come together like that. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to the bric-a-brac for this issue. Let's find out, is it a first read or a reread? And wondering if it is a reread for somebody. We'll go to Gene. First read or a reread?
Like I told you before, this is the era where I came into Amazing Spider-Man. The first Amazing Spider-Man issue I had was the Moon Knight issue. And I had the Vulture issue as well. And I read them quite a bit. And this issue I didn't have. So it's a first read for me.
Woo! All right. Gene's starting off strong here. Wow. Jared, first read or reread?
I'm going to call it a first read, Pat.
All right. I am also going to be a first read. So, Delvin, are you going to make it a first read for us?
Hold on. I shouldn't ask, but I have to. Jared, why did you say I'm calling it a first read?
I'm calling it a first read because I owned this one, but I have no memory of reading it. So I think this first time I've actually read it.
Fair enough. I own it. I own it too. I've never read it. It's a first read for me.
Woo!
All right.
Man, losing Jason was great for the show.
That makes it a reading rainbow.
Actually, Jason probably didn't read this either.
Yes. We're going to
most likely.
Woo! Reading rainbow.
I bet in the past, Gene. Not like that.
Oh, awesome. We got ourselves a rainbow. With that, let's go into some high, lows, or what does. Gene, give us your first high, low, or a what the.
I'm actually going to give it a high with the Spider Sense bit. When Fool Killer, in his civilian identity, was just talking to Pete on the same level. Spider Sense didn't pick him up at all. Mm-hmm. When he got angry or focused on, this fool, Spider Sense went off. So it was done really well portraying the insanity going on here. It's like almost multiple personalities taking over. I thought that was really handled well.
Yeah, it was interesting to see what Spider-Man's spider senses kind of pick up on and why when he notices it, like some dangerous things. Like even when the fool was climbing up the wall, he kind of noticed that little tingly sense again. And, he got all Spidey tingly and knew something was going on. Jared, you got a high, low, or what the?
I think it's a high, maybe. Yeah. It's
okay.
Roger Stern is a good writer, and I'm going to tell you why, because he had me within 2 pages very interested in what these 2 FBI guys are doing in their spare time to get ahead. Like they had this plan. I was like, I'm kind of looking forward to the adventures of these 2 FBI guys as they corral up whatever big name criminal they're working on. Spoiler alert, it didn't last, but to the 3rd page, I think they were both dead. To me, it was like a really good James Bond movie pre-title sequence where I was like, okay, yeah, I want to know more. So I'm going to give a high to those first 3 pages. I was intrigued. They each had distinct personalities. One of them was clearly the go-getter. The other one was like clearly the hesitant guy that wanted to help his buddy, but, wasn't sure. And I was like, this is good stuff. And they didn't make it, but it was a good drawing. So yeah, that's what it gets.
I was kind of shocked to see that when they got caught by the Fool Killer, that he just totally turned the guy into dust or something. Is like, holy, Bladdout just blasted him. And next thing you know, there's this pile of goo or whatever. I'm like, wow, that's pretty heavy for a Spider-Man issue, I thought. And then he did it to the other guy too. I'm like, oh man, this is what's going on here. Delvin, do you got a high, low, or what?
Pulling a Jared of sorts here. Meaning, I'm going to start with a high for a book that I did not like. I'm going to be honest with you about that. I didn't like this book. I felt so curmudgeonly after reading this book, but I'll get to that on the second part. The high is I like that Spidey resolved this issue of like, this man needs help. Yeah. He needs help, and he's not going to get help with me beating the crap out of him, which I could very easily do now that we're not in close quarters and I don't have to worry about the gun and I could just beat the heck out of him. But he doesn't need that. He needs psychiatric help. And he did a whole lot. So kudos to Spidey for doing that. Like, it was a lot more than just wins and losses and taking out the average bad guy. It was, no, we need to get this guy some help. And so Spidey gave him some help. Props for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That as the story goes on, you find out just how stuff that's going on in his head is causing him to be this way. I like the short little recap of how he came about to be the Fool Killer and the other characters that were involved. And I really liked that there were some callbacks to some other issues in this that were going on as well. And in the other Spider-Man issues or comics that were going on. So you're starting to see some pulling together like, oh man, maybe I need to read Spidey and I need to read this other issue too that keep following Spider-Man's world.
I always appreciate a good editor's note like that.
Yeah.
Because somebody might actually want to go back and get those books. Or maybe those books are on the stand and they didn't have a reason to get them, but they do now after the editor's note.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I like that too. We'll go back to Gene for round 2. High, low, or what the, Gene?
All right, this is going to be a what the. It's on the splash page, but it's also on basically all the FBI guy pages. Daily Bugle has made up posters to be hung around the city about Jameson's editorials. Their circulation is so good, they can waste money on this and stick it in an alley in an area of the city you wouldn't want to be in.
Gene, even criminals read newspapers back then.
Okay, but maybe in general, the Daily Bugle, the best paper in the city, but you're advertising, and this poster has been there for a while because it's all ripped and peeling and everything about Jameson doing an editorial on Spider-Man being a menace. You don't need to advertise that. That's part and parcel to the paper.
Well, that's just Jameson being Jameson. He's all about, I'm going to get you, and I don't care.
Hey, Robbie, how much money's in the F Spider-Man budget this month? Man, it's pretty lofty. We got about $7-8 in there. Posters, Robbie, posters all over the city.
And don't pay Parker that much money for the picture either. I don't know.
And Robbie, F Spider-Man.
Yeah, so that's where he's saving all that money. He's not paying Peter anything.
Exactly. Gene, I caught the same thing when I saw those posters, and I'm like, oh man, where is the money coming from for all that? Oh, good catch there, Gene. Good catch. Let's go ahead and go to Jarrett, high, low, or what the round 2.
I want to pull a Pat and just run my mouth a little bit here for a minute.
Good. I'm going to take a drink while you do.
Fool Killer's costume is really good. I feel like it's wasted here. It was like we met one guy and they're like, I wonder who the Fool Killer could be. And I'm like, it's probably the one guy that we met,
Yeah.
We did meet him as Peter was doing his stuff at school, which I liked. I think Auburn almost mentioned that in the chat. It's kind of neat to see him do the grad teaching assistant thing. That was kind of neat. So I liked that connection, but I just kind of wish Roger would have thrown in a couple more characters, unless it was like very clear, like maybe in that editor's note, it was very clearly that this guy's origin story was, hey, one time some dude told me about the Fool Killer, so I became the Fool Killer. Okay, I guess, and on one hand, I want to beat that up too. But on the other hand, Pat, one time I was sitting at a Taco Bell and this guy came in to pick up his, DoorDash delivery for somebody. Mm-hmm. And he went up to the counter and the gal was like, here's your stuff. And he goes, there should be more. And she goes, this is it. And he goes, there should be more. And he goes, this is it. And he goes, there should be more. And she goes, this is it. And I finally intervened and said, what is missing? And he goes, 2 drinks. And at that moment, if you'd given me the Fool Killer gun and the outfit, I would have killed them both. Because like, how long were you guys going to play this tennis game before somebody said what the F was missing? So I say that because on one hand, I made fun of his silly origin, but on the other hand, if he was at the right Taco Bell at the right time, I understand. Back to you, Pat.
World is full of fools, aren't they? So many fools out there. Should be more.
Oh, this is it. I wonder how long they would have done this if I hadn't have just intervened as I tried to. Anyway, I told the story.
I think you would make a really cool Fool Killer.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Once
Would
this
you like some
slippery slope
Buccaneer-
as we learned in this issue, once you
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. I think you would look cool in some Buccaneer boots.
Now that part is true.
Yeah.
And that hat is baller.
Yeah. That hat's pretty cool. Man, he's got that Zorro-y kind of vibe to it, and that swashbuckling kind of guy that I was hoping for a little bit more out of him. But he's got a cool costume. I can see myself rocking that for Halloween. Delvin, you got a high, low, or what the?
All righty. It's my low time. I even went to goodoldictionary.com and looked up the definition of the word insipid. Insipid means without distinctive, interesting, or stimulating qualities. Vapid. That's exactly the word that I think of. Fool killer, this whole book. It's like, I don't like fools. Okay. What's a fool? Somebody who didn't like my poetry.
Uh-oh. We're all in big trouble.
Bro, what? you got this gun and you are warping people out of existence because, like, you didn't get my mail off in time. Mailroom, zap, zappity zap. Like, what? Are you, what?
A lot of non-intentional silly Spidey moments to pick from.
Yes,
there is.
The whole thing. And then, like, he redefined what a fool was like 3 or 4 times. And I understand that the purpose of that was to say, this dude is not mentally well. I got that. And here's another side that sort of at least has to do with Fool Killer, not with the book. So a while back when I went to like a mini con and I picked up a few rando issues to get for like a LONGBOX CRUSADE when it became my turn, I picked up an issue of Fool Killer. They did, I don't know if it was a one shot or a mini series or not, but it was like, I read it and I was like, and even reading that one shot, I was like, this is not interesting. Like if I brought this book, like no one would like it. Like I'm not quite Captain Carrot, but like, I mean, close enough. You know, I've run long. I'll just simply say I didn't like the premise. For whatever reason, even like I generally like Roger Stern's writing. The man created Hobgoblin, y'all. He created Hobgoblin. We're gonna see Hobgoblin in about a year and change from now. Looking forward to it. Fool Killer, it just like there were so many words wasted. And it just okay, well, I'm done.
You know, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying there, Delvin, especially with the words. I found this one extremely wordly. Lots of words in this one, you know, even more than we see in the X-Men.
Little Claremontian issue here.
Yeah. Am I the only one that thought that? I'm like, man, there are a lot of words in this.
No,
one.
You're not. It was by the time I was midway through and Fool Killer's giving this like long rambling origin story, I'm like, I don't care.
I like the part where he got to like, and then I took on the Defenders and I was like, how are you still alive?
Yeah, exactly. I thought
how did Valkyrie not rip your head off?
What?
Yeah. I'm like,
wait, hold on. And then I mistook the strength of the Valkyrie. You're an English lit major. You don't know Valkyries are strong?
all he's got is a gun.
Just nothing about it made sense.
Oh, no, I'm glad because I was like, man, this thing is so wordy. And I guess what I like about this era, even though it was wordy, I think it was way and above the wordiness. But the words that I like in here are the bubbles, the thought bubbles. And you see that in the X-Men is when I read it too. I miss the thought bubbles to see what's happening behind some of that stuff. But even then, I don't need all of that. There was just too much going on.
Okay.
In this one.
I missed thought bubbles, but not that many thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, man, this is way too much going on here.
I had to laugh just in the chat, Justin riffing off my Taco Bell saying, Delvin's basically saying there should be more. And Marvel's like, this is the comic.
Yes.
I was like, there should be more. And Marvel's like, this is comic. That was funny. I just give him a shout out.
I am wondering, was this one that was just pulled out from somewhere? Like, the drawer filler issue that they had to do, maybe something going on, why they released it 2 issues in October. There really wasn't like a fifth week at all. I don't think when this one came out. So,
well, my theory has been there's been something going on in the background with Spidey. And to the degree where it's just like, okay, we've at least seen John Romita Jr. now for 2 issues straight. That's good. But something just seems inconsistent. And the only real direction that's going on in Amazing Spider-Man right now is they're on ESU campus and they're sort of trying to juggle Peter Parker doing the freelance photographer / teaching assistant thing. And so like a lot of adventures are happening on ESU. So like that's the only level of consistency that's been going on in Spidey for about a year now. And so I'm starting to see how the X-Men really made its ascension up to the top of the Marvel universe ranks, because as we're going to discuss, the X-Men story was coherent. You've had Chris Claremont on there. You've had Dave Cockrum and John Byrne drawing the book. So outstanding art, consistent writing. And like, that's something for any reader to latch onto. So old readers who like Claremont are going to stay on. New readers might pick it up and it's like, this is interesting. I'm going to stay on. But the one shot thing, it works for a while. I'm not saying that you have to have some like they do nowadays. Like they'll have a storyline that runs for like 5, 6, 7 years. You don't necessarily have to have that, but it is nice to have some sort of coherency. And that hasn't been here in Spidey for some time now.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Delvin, and I'm hopefully it will get resolved and we'll get to some better stories or better arcs along the way. One thing that I really liked and was surprised to see is we see Betty. She turned up here.
Where? Was she at the Bugle?
No, she was the girl in when he came into the office, whatever, and she's like, "Oh, this guy was looking for you."
You mean Deb?
Oh, Deb. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That was Deb.
That was Deb Whitmore. Yeah, I was Deb Whitmore. I'm like, oh yeah, I like seeing Deb Whitmore. All of a sudden, she's kind of sad, and Peter again being a jerk to her. But I was like, wow, made me wonder. I'm like, you know what? Who would have been a better fool killer would have been her boyfriend.
Press the ball,
and then he could have zapped him with the buzzer or something like that. He would have been a better fool killer.
Yeah, he walks out and she's like, Peter, what's wrong? Peter, I made pancakes.
Oh, well. All right. Well, with that, let's go into our silly Spidey moments. And we'll go to Gene. Do you have a silly Spidey for this issue?
Let me preface this a little because of the way my brain works. I have a touch of John Wilson disease. So I said, I'm not going to just read this issue. I'm going to go back a little ways. Okay, 225. Let me go back to 200. Oh, wait, that's at the end of Wolfman's run. Let me start Wolfman's run. So I started reading for this episode at Amazing Spider-Man 182, which you can listen to on Crusader Chronicles number 38 for those of you in the chat. So I read all the way through all this, and consistently through this, when Deb Whitman's was introduced, Peter was trying to get with her. If something came up, he had to come up with some weird excuse to bail out on her and everything. You get to this, and she's in the office. She tells Peter, oh, this idiot, I'm furious. He called me a fool. And Peter gets angry and storms out. And she's, Peter, what is it? What's wrong? It's right there. Tell her I'm going to go give him a piece of my mind for insulting you. Done.
Oh, yeah. Good catch.
Ready-made excuse. And he ignores it.
Yeah. Pete's all about dropping that ball when it comes to Deb Whitman. I'm pretty sure you've heard, Gene, like we already had it out with Pete when it's like, okay, I'm going to go over to your place, pass out for like 18 hours and then wake up. And old girl is like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing well. I cleaned you up. I dressed your wounds and I made you breakfast. And he was like, yeah, later, toots. Like,
yeah. There's this hottie in the hotel I have to go see. He always tries to come up with an excuse. Here, he didn't even bother. He just stormed right out. I understand. This is obviously the villain of the issue, but come on.
Oh, no, that was a good callback, Gene. And I appreciate your dedication to this show to read this many issues as you did. There you go. Jarrett, silly Spidey moment.
Oh, it has to be when he said, oh boy, Yeah, you knew I was coming because I sent you that letter. And he was like, I didn't get a letter. And he was like, I gotta go shoot everybody in the mailroom. I'd die, especially as a guy who's done as much eBay selling as I have. I was like, yeah, once again, I could understand. That was hilarious because he came in with all that pop and search. Dude was like, I didn't get a letter. One more thing to do. That made me laugh.
It made me laugh too. That was going to be mine too because it took me a little bit and I'm like, oh, okay. So you didn't get the letter. Must be something wrong. But then the callback to it of, okay, I'm going after the people in the mail. Oh, once he talked to Peter and asked him, hey, how's the mail sound? Like, oh no, this is where it's going. Oh, funny. Great moment. Delvin, what's your silly Spidey moment?
And so when he got to the mailroom, he came and they're like, who do you think you are? And he's like, I'm the Fool Killer. And they were like, Fool Killer? These fraternities get crazier every year. They just
Didn't they like openly brag about not doing their jobs too?
Yes.
Yeah, he said, if you're a Fool Killer, you've come to the right place. Like, we don't care.
Yes, please kill me.
Yeah, who is this dandy coming in here all angry? Hey, what was wrong with you? Yeah, so that was funny.
Yeah, several good moments in this one. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to the ratings for this issue. It's a 1 through 5 rating. 5 is you loved it. It tickled your tummy feathers. 4, you really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. It ruffled your tummy feathers. Your mail didn't get delivered at all.
Then you went to the mailroom and they laughed at you.
Oh, how hard. Gene, what's your rating on this issue?
All right. So Romita Jr.'s art in this is terrific. The way he lays everything out, the pacing, his characters, etc. You have, to quote Michael Bailey, all subplots accounted for. But I just don't give a damn about the Fool Killer. So I'm sorry, this is a 2. I didn't hate it, but no, I'm never reading this again.
Definitely agree with you, Gene, on the art in this. On John Romita Jr. The artwork was very nicely done. Jarrett, where would you rate this issue?
I don't want Gene to be lonely on 2 islands. And I agree with everything you said. It's a good looking book. I think if I was doing a reread, and I'm pretty much paraphrasing what Gene said, if I was doing a reread of Amazing Spider-Man, I got to this one, I'd be like, flip, 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 pretty good looking art. I remember flip, 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 boom, take the next one to read. So I'm going to also give it a 2 because it's just a skip over for me from now on, but it's not an angry 2. It's not, you've seen me give angry 2s before. Yeah. It's more like I would just pass right by it.
It's skippable. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I'd flip through it and look at it because there's some really good drawings by Romita Jr. But yeah,
Yeah, I am with you and Gene. So far, we got 3 guys at a 2. I feel the same way. I wanted more out of it. Artwork, definitely. Delvin, what's your thoughts?
We'll talk about the audience first. Matt Passo gave it a 3 for being contained and Spidey caring about mental health. Did I say carrying?
That's a good point.
Did I say carrying or caring?
You said contained.
Never mind. All right. And Auburn Elvis says, I give it a 4. It was a nice, absurd Spidey story. The villain was clearly insane. It's a 4. He said it at the start. He said it at the end. And me, I'm with y'all. It's a 2. And to be honest, it's lucky it's not a 1. I read it. I'm just like, just come on. Like, okay, I call everybody a fool. And because you're a fool, I'm going to kill you. Really? Like,
that's your trigger?
How are you somehow more one note than the Punisher? Like, how? How is that possible? I don't know, but the Fool Killer pulled it off. Like, and so, I will not belabor it. It's a 2. Like Romita Jr.'s art definitely keeps it from being a 1. My absolute love and affectation for Spider-Man keeps it from being a 1. So yeah, right out of 2.
Wow, that puts us all 4 guys at a 2. Wow.
I don't think we've ever done. We don't have open the door on the floor. We don't have a Three's Company. We don't have everybody get up.
I don't know.
Is this the lowest rated issue you've ever had?
It takes two. It takes two. Me and you.
It takes two. Gene, that's a good question. Is it the lowest we've had? I think we've had somebody at a 1 or before, but average-wise, this might be good average of 2 where we all hit it. So.
It's up there or down there, as it may be.
Well, hopefully there is only more better issues to come. I'm sure sometimes, is this a filler? A little, but there was some story movement, a little bit here and there, but
So we should end on a happy note. Vinkman chimes in the chat. Welcome, Vinkman. I almost called you Peter. You've absolutely got some good Stern Spidey coming up very soon. One story in particular is unstoppable.
That one I have read, so get ready for me to ruin the rainbow.
No,
I have read that one too, so that's going to be a ruin the rainbow as well.
Oh, well,
but that's 5 months from now's problems. That's not today's problems, Pat.
No, it is not. Speaking about today's problems, let's go ahead and get into Karma Count with Albert and Elvis, where our problem now is to figure out how many karma points will Spidey get for this issue. We have a very, very good person who knows his phase of rip, right? Did I say that right?
I think you did, yes.
Phase rip?
Phase rip.
Close enough.
Close enough. Gene is very into this universe with the Marvel role-playing game, so we'll be interested to see how close Gene gets on this one. But we'll start with Delvin.
Not a lot of property damage. He did save the mailroom. 50.
Okay. Jarrett, are you higher or lower?
I am going with my boy Matt Passo in the chat and saying 55.
Ooh, okay. I am going to go with 45. I think Peter might get some points with helping.
You going to bust out that $1?
Gene.
No, I'm going on the other end. I'm actually going to say 65.
Oh,
okay.
He was doing his day job twice, stopped some violent crimes. He did have a very public defeat, but I think he did all right on this.
All right, we have Gene's and our thoughts on where we'll go with the karma count. Let's go ahead and get into it.
I guess I'm your karma, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. There's nothing above it.
Hello, Crusaders. This is Auburn Elvis. Have you ever wondered if superheroes can improve their strength by working out? Well, according to the 1984 Marvel superhero role-playing game, they can, but it ain't easy. In the game, heroes gain and lose karma points for how heroic their actions are. Karma can be saved up over time and spent to improve a hero's ability scores. Improving an ability costs 10 times his current score, so if Spider-Man wanted to improve his strength of a 40 to a 41, it would cost him 400 karma points. And to give you an idea of how long it would take Spidey to earn that much karma, here's the karma count from his actions in this issue. Amazing Spider-Man starts off with a pair of FBI agents being murdered by the insane villain Fool Killer. The story cuts over to Peter Parker finishing off a chemistry lecture. This counts as a kept commitment, so it's 5 karma right there. Later that night, as Peter is leaving campus, he spots Fool Killer scaling the outside of one of the academic buildings. Spider-Man arrives in time to save the registrar from certain death. That's a 40 karma bonus, and there's some property damage in the fight, which is a 5 karma deduction. The battle moves to the streets where Fool Killer escapes through the subways. There was more property destruction, so that's another 5-point deduction. The next day, Peter is able to sell photos of the battle to the Bugle, which gets him 5 more karma. Afterwards, he sets out to find Fool Killer and ends up back at the ESU campus. He uses a poor choice of words describing the campus mailroom to the Fool Killer's alter ego, Greg Salinger, and that sends his spider sense into overdrive. A quick conversation with Deb Whitman clues Peter in on the Fool Killer's identity, and he races off to prevent the murders he indirectly set in motion. Spidey arrives just in time to stop Fool Killer, and, as you can guess, there's another 5 points of property damage. But since Spidey prevented more murders, that's also another 40 karma points. And this time the villain does not escape. So after the Fool Killer's defeat and arrest, Spidey will receive 20 karma for each of those. Spidey even prevents Salinger from killing himself, which is technically another thwarted murder. 40 more points for Spidey. Add all that up and we have one of the most one-sided villain lameness to karma output ratios in comic history, with a whopping total of 155 karma. I guess the secret to min-maxing karma is to find a supervillain who likes to murder, isn't very good at it, but is really good at getting away so you can stop him from doing more murders. And if Spider-Man were to take advantage of just 2 more mediocre serial killers, he'd have enough karma to raise his strength from a 40 to a 41. I'm Auburn Elvis. Well, thank you very much for listening to this karma count. Hey, Joe November, kill these fools with a mad beat.
I guess I'm your karma, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. There's nothing above it.
All right.
I blame Matt Passo.
Apparently my players are right. I am stingy with the karma.
Well, Gene, you were the closest at 65, but man, that was a lot of karma that was just doled out there. So I think I got to rethink my game on this stuff. Just when I think I get it, I don't.
Sometimes it changes, Pat, so you've got to change with it. You got to be like a karma chameleon.
And that's, I tried to, Jared, but I come and I go.
It comes and goes.
It comes and goes. Whoa. That's going to bring us to the end of this part of the show. You got a comment or a question? Send us an email at contact@longboxcrusade.com or make a comment on the Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook page. We will be right back.
Spider-Man and the Cupcake Caper.
Peter Parker is in Mary Jane Watson's apartment when suddenly he sees a familiar enemy.
MJ, you'll have to excuse me for a minute.
You have this thing, Tiger, and I hate it. Every time there's trouble, you disappear.
Relax, MJ. All I want to do is get some milk we have with these Hostess cupcakes.
Sure, Peter. Anything to avoid reality. But at least this time, you left me with a really delicious snack. Devil's food cake, chocolate, king creamy filling.
I hate having Mary Jane think I'm a coward, but there's no other way I can slip into my Spider-Man role. And only Spidey can handle Man Mountain Marco. Don't look now, Marco, but the mountain just became a molehill.
Webhead, we don't understand you, but we sure appreciate the help.
Thanks, guys. Meanwhile, I've got a quart of grade A to deliver. Sorry it took me so long, MJ, but I got a little bit distracted. Yeah.
Well, no sweat, Peter. The Hostess cupcakes you left me with were a lot more rewarding to me than you ever been.
Brother, if she only knew.
You get a big delight in every bite of Hostess cupcakes.
Welcome back from the break. Now let's get to the second featured comic for this episode, which is determined by our Crusader Club members. Club members get to vote on this segment using the online poll only available on the Longbox Crusade page at patreon.com. As always, we want to thank our Crusader Club members for voting to help determine the programming for this show. If you want to get in on the voting and all the other amazing benefits of the Crusader Club member, just head on over to patreon.com and search for Longbox Crusade. You can join for as little as $1 per month and help determine what each episode's second feature will be. For this episode, the Crusader Club members selected Jared's favorite, Uncanny X-Men, number 154. The credits for this issue are provided by Mike's Amazing World of Comics website. Publisher was Marvel. Its cover date was February 1982, but its on-sale date was November 10th, 1981. Cover price is 60 cents. Editor was Louise Simonson. Chris S. Claremont.
Esquire! Still doing it.
Penciler Dave Cockrum. Inker is Bob Wycheck. And another inker is Joseph Rubenstein. Letterer goes to Joseph Rosen. And colorist is the Don Warfield.
Boo.
Oh, Don.
You're not Glennis, Don. We don't like
Glennis.
You.
Yeah.
Go away, Don.
You can read along with us reprinted in X-Men Classic 58 or the Essential X-Men Volume 3 trade paperback. You can also read it in the Marvel Masterworks Volume 151 of Uncanny X-Men Volume 7. You can find it in Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 3. Cover credits for this issue go to artist Dave Cockrum. And speaking about that Cockrum cover, let's get a cover description from Jared.
All right, Pat, thank you very much. Welcome to WFXM. All FXM, all 80s, all the time. The Marvel Comics Group banner is gone again in favor of a green and black advertisement for a bicycle that has 10 speed. Corner box is matching the green of the bike ad. It contains the top 6 of the X-Men heads, according to the Billboard charts. Coming in at number 6 is Cyclops and the Laser Beams. Number 5, Nightcrawler and the Bamfs. Number 4 is Kitty and the Sprites. Number 3 is Storm from her latest album, Category 5 Hurricane. Number 2 is Colossus and the Metalmen. And at number 1 is the Canadian pop group Healing Factor with lead singer Wolverine. The X-Men logo is Coca-Cola Red with patent white leather highlights. And the album cover is the latest from Corsair and the Starjammers, and it contains their hits Surrounded by the Spider Aliens and Blast Your Way Out. Both songs featuring Cyclops and Storm. Back to you, Pat.
Thank you, Jared, for taking that cover off the racks, playing it back, and putting it back.
Remember, Pete? Remember, Pete? Because that's your name in the 80s. Remember, Pete? Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the Starjammers.
Oh, thank you for that awesome cover synopsis. Let's go ahead and get to some quick cover thoughts, and we'll go to Gene. What's your thoughts on this cover?
Bike ad aside, this is an exciting cover. You have Cyclops, Storm, Corsair, all in the middle of whatever the heck these things are, and they look scared. They look like they're going to die, and it makes you want to grab the issue and flip through it, find out what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, this looks very interesting. A lot of stuff going on here. And I think mainly it's a lot of the little figures or squirrely marks, or I don't know. I guess the aliens that are happening here. If you didn't know what they were before reading it, you'd kind of wonder what's happening. Delvin, what's your thoughts on the cover?
Cockrum never seems to skimp on covers, does he? Like, this seems like, so Jared, you tell me Sidar, I forgot the villain's name, the alien thing. What's their names?
I don't know. Spider Group, something. I don't remember.
Sindar?
Whatever they are. Like, would that be drawn by inkers?
I'm glad you asked, because when I'm looking at this cover as we're showing it here, as it was shown on the book, it looks like it was really provided by the colorist. But when I look in my black and white only, that they have actual line work that's not on the cover we're looking at. There's line work here that is not there. One of two things: they either did the line work, colored it, and then removed it, or they did the cover like this and then just added the line work later for black and white purposes, which is probably more likely, because I don't know how the hell you remove line work. I don't know, but I noticed it too, Delvin.
Okay. Auburn Elvis with the help. It looks like Sidrian, the Sidrian Hunters, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hopefully I am. Thank you for that, Auburn Elvis. It's busy, but the busyness goes to show you the hopeless odds that the three heroes are under, so I dig it. It feels like maybe it was slightly rushed a little bit, but like it's very hard to complain about a Dave Cockrum cover. Like the man could draw his butt off. It's amazing he didn't draw a lot more than he did. So it's been a treat to see him back on the X-Men, and it just continues.
Yeah, his covering artwork here is really good to look at. Just a lot going on this one. Jared, what's your thoughts?
Real quick, before Jared gets started, I'll just read some comments from the chat. Botboy Versus says that it was a beautiful cover. Dave is killing it as always. And we're not to the ratings yet, but he gave it a 5. He loved it. Matt Paso says that the cover's a little busy for me. He likes the action, but the blue spider bugs are a little overkill. And he gave it a 3 himself. And Justin came and said it is busy, but not confusing. Take it away, Jared.
And that was what I was going to riff on, was Justin's comments. Busy, but not confusing. I agree. It is very busy, but I think you mentioned it too, like it tells a story. It's highly reminiscent of Aliens, which has not come out yet. I beat up on Claremont for riffing off of Alien a few issues ago, but Aliens has not come out yet. But it has that we're totally surrounded, fight for your life feel to it. So I kind of dig what Justin's saying. It's busy, but not confusing. You get the point there's a whole horde of these monsters, and with up against these 3 people. And of course, I'm going to get a little fired up because it's got 2 really good characters in Cyclops and Storm. And then, of course, there's Corsair, who I always think is kind of neat when he shows up. He's a neat additive to me to the X-Men. I think every once in a while, Starjammers gets their own book. I think every once in a while, it doesn't do more than about 8 or 9 issues. But I think they are a really good team as an additive to the X-Men, because it kind of says, hey, as much as I don't tend to like to go cosmic, it says we're gonna play with the cosmic ideals in this one. And I feel like Corsair especially is a good bridge to the cosmic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he is very much like Star-Lord is in the movies.
Literally what I was thinking.
Yep.
Yes.
I think
Totally
that's a good bridge to that. So when I see Corsair show up, I go, okay, my interest gets a little piqued and I get a little fired up. So yeah, it's a cool cover.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that Corsair aspect, that when he shows up, he can make me more grounded into that cosmic universe that's out there, because I think I can kind of put myself in him, like, there's a wild, crazy guy, and he's a human just like me, and I can dig with that guy. I put down what the space pirate guy is doing, because who of us, when we were kids, didn't want to be some sort of a space pirate? I kind of like that.
Nobody really wants to be a space pirate, Pat, except maybe Major Williams.
Save us, Major Williams.
I'll save you.
I'll tell you what, one more thing I want to add about this cover, Pat, is, like I said, I thought it was cool, but I'm definitely going to remember it from now on, because I didn't realize that this issue, we'll get to it in the story, had such a poignant story beat moment.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I had no idea this was going to be
Me neither.
So I noticed I have a lot to do with the cover, but it makes the cover more memorable when you go, oh, it's this one.
Yes.
So we'll get
I felt the same way. And, I think what helps this one, and believe it or not, I'm going to say what helps this one is the bicycle ad.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Because what's happening is it's shrinking it down so you don't have a longer space between the X-Men logo. And you know what I mean? So it kind of makes that area really short and like there's a lot more going on.
Claustrophobic.
But yes. If that bike wasn't there, that X-Men would be up a little bit higher, and then maybe he'd draw a little bit more, or just to kind of cover that space. But I think that gives me that claustrophobic feel on this one. And the colors make everything kind of pop. Really cool. With that, let's go into our cover ratings. As a reminder, it is a 1 through 5 rating for this issue. 5 is you loved it. It gave you a ring to swing from.
Woohoo!
4, you really liked it.
Yay!
3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. It turned you into a little baby. Took all your powers away. Gene, 1 through 5 for the cover.
All right. Now, if Joe November was here, I would be giving this a 4.5. But he's not. I have to obey the rules. I don't think this rises to the level of I love this, so I'm going to have to stick with a 4 on it. It's really good. I really like the art. It doesn't have that oomph for me.
Respectable. Jared?
I'm going to agree with Gene. I'm going to give it a 4, which is actually really high praise when you think about how little drawing really is involved. Like we talked about, it's really 3 characters. And the mystery as to whether or not Cockrum drew those spiders or if those were brought in by the colorist. My suspicion is that they're brought in by the colorist. But it's Cockrum, and it's cool characters, and it's tense, so it's a 4.
Jared is at a 4. Delvin? Where are the folks in the chat and you at?
Well, I mentioned already, no one else spoke up about cover ratings, but people seem to be favorable towards the cover, and I am too. It's a busy cover, A, which accurately portrays what happened in the book, B, and C would be it's Dave Cockrum. It's very hard to give him less than a 4, so I'm going to give it a 4. Very quickly, Auburn Elvis also gave it a 4. So it's really up to you, Pat, as to whether or not we open the door or not.
Well, Delvin, I am glad you asked. And so we are going to open up the door. Boom, boom, boom. Like a boom, boom, boom. Like a boom. I'm giving it a 4. Boom, boom. Like a boom. Hey, we did it. Woo-hoo. All right. Now that we got the covered description and rating out of the way, let's go ahead and go to a story synopsis brought to you by Jason with vocals by Delvin. Cyclops, Storm, Banshee, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Colossus, Children of the Atom, students of Charles Xavier, mutants, feared and hated by the world they have sworn to protect. These are the strangest heroes of all. These are the X-Men.
Stan Lee presents the Uncanny X-Men.
The title of this book was Reunion. In our tale today, Storm and Cyclops are spending some time together in the mansion as the rest of the team are busy setting up a new base on Magneto's abandoned island. The two discuss their leadership roles and responsibilities over dinner after a competitive game in the Danger Room. Their moment of introspection is interrupted, however, when Corsair of the Starjammers crash lands on the grounds. After rescuing Corsair, the three are suddenly attacked by a swarm of winged drones, and a no-holds-barred battle erupts, destroying the mansion again. Hey, Warren, it's me, Charlie again. Using all of their powers, wits, and strategic prowess, the three barely escape with Corsair destroying the entities, much to the consternation of Scott and Aurora. During the melee, good God, so many vocabulary words. During the melee, Scott also discovers that Corsair is his progenitor. No, I'm kidding. He said father. And that Storm has been keeping this fact from him. All of this must be put on hold, however, when Corsair reveals that the Shi'ar Armada is coming and Earth is the target.
Thank you, Delvin, and thank you, Jason, for that synopsis. Let's go ahead and get to the bric-a-brac for this issue. Is it a first read or a reread? Gene?
This is a first read for me, Pat. I've read all the X-Men up through the end of Byrne's run, but haven't gone past it. So first time I'm seeing this.
All right, Gene's starting us off strong on this one. Jarrett, first read or a reread?
First read.
First read for you. Delvin, is it a first read or reread?
It's a first read, Pat.
Whoa, you know what that means. It's a first read for me, too. Woo! Double rainbow. Double rainbow. Oh, man. Oh, there was no Glennis, but at least we got a double rainbow out of this one. So
that's
there
true.
We go. Ooh, I love it. I love it when the butterflies and the skies come together for both books. Oh, so fun. All right, well, let's get into some high, lows, or what does for this issue. We'll go 2 rounds. First round, we'll start with Gene.
All right, we're going to start off on a high here. All of the interactions between Scott and Aurora in this, they're just terrific. They're equals. They're going back and forth with stuff. When it comes to the battle, Aurora asks Scott what to do, and he just says, hey, you're in charge. You tell me. And goes exactly with it. It was a pleasure to read their interactions.
So
Definitely.
good. So
one of the
good.
biggest tenets of being a good leader is being a good follower.
Oh, yeah.
And wow, was that put on display.
I think, both of them just together like that was so cool to see. And the little game that they came up with, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. The thing to play against each other. Delvin.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a little bit more about what Gene said because I loved it that much. And I haven't read this era of X-Men. I have most of these issues, but have not read them. And I know, it's some years down the line where Cyclops and Storm have it out as to who's going to be the official leader of the X-Men. And I think Storm has lost her powers by then. I don't even remember how that happens, but I know it's going to. in any way, this seems kind of like a precursor to that, where they were playing this game that both of them, just due to the very nature of who they are, like wanted to win. And I love that, like, it just got to a point they're just like, okay, let's call it a draw. And out of just respect for each other, because they had both pushed each other to that limit. And then just throughout the book, just more examples of leadership on both parts and followership, to where, like, at one point, the bird warriors, spider warriors, whose name Sidrian, the Sidrian hunters were coming after them in a mansion. And Storm was like, I got the rear flank. And Corsair's like, you're going to leave her alone? And like, not only did Cyclops already, he's like, well, I'm just going to trust her and listen. But he's like, I already know why she did it. Yeah. Because like, we're going to go ahead and get this thing going and she can catch up, but I could not have caught up. And it's just like, oh, yes. Like, just to trust your teammate like that, of where it's just like, I trust you with everything. So if you say that leave you here and you're going to be able to hold the charge until I get back, or until you're able to like get away, then I believe that you can do it. And he trusted. Just so, and that's just one example. Just awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, that was a good point when they did that. And then just to see Scott just, punch Corsair. I was like, whoa, he's like, just, shut up. And he punches him. But I think there was probably twofold going on there on why he may have punched, Corsair, because, what the underlining thing is that we learn about in this issue, and two, that just his trust in Storm. It just shows how much they have grown together from the beginning of when we first started reading along with these. So I loved it. Definitely loved it. Jared, high, low, or what the?
Man, you guys covered all that stuff really well. Feel like Scott missed an opportunity there when they finished the game to pull a Roger Moore and be like, let's get out of these wet things. But,
he did say, let's hit the showers. And I was like,
hey,
we don't know what happened.
Hey, it's just the two of us in that mansion.
Maybe that's why they had to let the whole place burn down and like,
Anyways.
Smells like jungle fever up in here. That'll be all. Carry on.
I thought it was cool that Claremont, although, I have my times with him, I think it's cool that he kept a bead on the fact that they just defeated Magneto on his island fortress. They're like, hey, this is our island fortress now, baby. We can make use of this. I thought that was kind of cool. And so they take advantage of the fortress, and something happened over at the island fortress. Basically, we first cut over that automatically gives the book a +1. The appearance of everyone's favorite character, Peter Maurice Feldman Corbeau, shows up again. This is the most showing up dude of all time. My favorite is still when they went flying out to space and he was like up there in space, like, hey. Like, what?
Hey guys, I'm here to pick you up.
I was like, what? So just seeing Peter Corbeau and the smart tactical use of this island, pretty cool.
And then what you may have missed, Jared, because it's in the fine print of like the original issue, is that like some of the X-Men were like whispering to Peter's like, we're so glad you're not Angel. And then they're like,
yeah, Peter Corbeau, he's got a lot of money too. So he can help out wherever he can. Let's go ahead and go to round 2. Gene, high, low, or what the?
This is going to be kind of a what the. So we go back to when Corsair is first introduced. And it says, after 20 years, Major Christopher Summers, United States Air Force, is returning home to a planet and a son he barely remembers. Hey, dummy, you got 2 kids.
Maybe they hadn't thought that through yet. Was that a plot point yet?
Yeah, it mentioned later in the story that
okay.
His wife puts Scott in the parachute shoves Alex into his arms.
That's right.
Okay,
you're a bad father.
We know who the favorite kid is.
Well, it is interesting on that story front there to find out a little bit more of what happened after the kids, jumped out of the plane or whatever. Like, I was wondering what happened to his wife since he was there. And then they kind of briefly say, she dies from not wanting to do something or whatever. I don't know. So I'm kind of fascinated with that story of what actually happened to them once they got taken away or what.
I don't know if they ever
explain that.
I don't remember. It seems like something that they would have explained at some point. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm interested in finding a little bit more on that point. So, because like Jared said, Corsair is kind of that kind of guy that like, oh, I kind of like this dude. He's kind of wild and crazy. And I think he could have some fun space comedy stuff going on there just to see what he would get into. Delvin, you got any more high, lows, or what does?
I'll keep it on the leadership track, even though I'll read a couple of Auburn Elvis' comments real quick because I don't know if we're going to get to them or not. One of them, he said, I like seeing Carol Danvers after the Rogue incident. It is interesting that they keep a small foot in the rest of the Marvel Universe pool, as it were.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, I mean, they do that more now. I actually just read a recent issue of the Avengers where I kind of smiled and nodded because apparently there's some issues that went on with the X-Men and Krakoa. This agency had come together to take the mutants out, as a world agencies often seem to. And Avengers actually sided with the X-Men on that, and that made me smile. And I appreciated this nod too, where Carol Danvers is kind of convalescing after Rogue attack. So it looks like they're just at least bringing, that part of it in. So that's cool. And he mentioned something funny as well. My high-low, what the Colossus is carrying a pair of crates that says this side up, upside down. And we had the same gag in the alleyway at the end of the Spider-Man story. So didn't know if you guys caught that or not. My little part of it is just, I get Corsair. There's some leaders who are like Corsair. I don't know if I like Corsair because I do understand that sometimes in war, you got to do what you got to do. But there are sometimes like, bro, it's just like, nah, we had to take care of them. I don't care about the collateral damage and who has to take care of anything after that. And it's like, then are you really a good leader, dude? You seem like a kind of guy that just kind of does, figures that the ends justify the means. And like that can get you in trouble very, very easily. I much prefer Cyclops and Storm's approach where they're like, well, one, we're going to try and preserve life if possible. But two, we're especially going to be worried about saving human life that got involved in our, shenanigans, like through no fault of their own. And we have to look out for them and protect them. And Corsair was kind of like, screw all that. We got some bad guys. And no matter what we do, we got to take these bad guys out. And I can't say that I'm a huge fan of that. So for that reason and more, Cyclops has every reason to not like his dad for certain. So I agree with that. So I don't know where that falls in the high-low but just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah. No, that is some good point there that between Cyclops and, as we find out that Corsair is his dad, there's going to be some stuff maybe said later, hopefully, that Storm's going to have to, talk about. But I think that makes you understand then where Scott's coming from, where, you always want your kids to be the better part of you, right? And so is Scott this person that, his dad's a little brash and all that. You see that a little bit in Scott from time to time, but you also see him kind of honing that in to be the leader that he becomes as well, too. So I think, is Scott the better of it all? I think so. We're seeing that. I had a quick thing that I liked in the callback to it is when you see Scott and Corsair, they get into the Blackbird and that front top panel, it says as they're looking into the Blackbird, you have on there a callback to the last episode or last issue, and it has a little dragon, and on it says Kitty's Dragon. I like that. That was a little callback. No, that's kind of cool that they actually, someone must have put that on there from one of the X-Men must have put that on there for Kitty on there. So I thought that was a cool callback.
I'm going to say that Colossus did it. I mean, he's the artist, and this will make Kitty happy.
Yeah, I like that. I was like, oh yeah, that was a cool callback with that. Let's go ahead and go to Jarrett. Second round, high, low, or what the?
I'm going to play a defense attorney for Corsair, Your Honor. I'm just a caveman. But I get kind of what they were doing with the whole, Cyclops and Storm's take on it, but it's hard not to see Corsair's side because he was like basically, I thought of him again to use an Aliens references like Ellen Ripley. Like I fought these things. You don't understand. They are unstoppable. They will destroy everything that you can even see if we don't do this now. Right. So I not necessarily against his decision making because I don't know enough about these monsters. Maybe it comes down to this. Maybe Scott and Storm's plan is better. But at this point, when everything's going crazy, I'd go with the plan I know works. And if I got to blow up some guys at the gasoline factory to keep these creatures from eating the entire earth, well, by God, I'm going to do it. So, it's not pretty and it's not sexy. And I'd like to think the other team, had some great ideas, but it's hard to judge a guy who knows exactly what you're up against.
I mean, that's assuming that, deadbeat dad over here is telling the truth. I mean,
he's a lot of things. I don't know that he's a liar, but I can't defend him that much because I don't know a lot about him. I just know that when I see him, I go, oh, space pirate. And it's Scott's dad. So this should be interesting. So heck, we need to really talk about that. You kind of hit on it, Pat. This is the issue where we find out.
Yeah.
That he's Scott's dad. And then the freaking General Hospital moment of it all isn't even that reveal. Is that Storm was like, yeah, I knew that and I never told you. And it's like, what?
Yeah. When did that happen?
I don't know.
It was back. It did happen. I don't know if it was way back in the fight when he was around the first time, or does Storm know because Jean told her?
I don't remember.
Because Jean knew, I think, with the Emerald Crystal and all that.
I don't know, but I'll give it up to Claremont because he took what would be a big reveal and gave it a because it's like, wait, you knew this the whole time? You didn't tell me? And she was like, yeah. Like, oh man, this is gonna get interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see because especially how that was built up with their back and forth on leadership and all that. Now,
that's a big hit in the trust factor right there. Like, why in the world? I want to know her reason. Like, what was her reasoning for not telling him?
Well, she said that she was basically protecting his feelings.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, and he's gone through a lot lately with, losing Jean and then getting stranded and all that stuff that's going on. Is like, okay, when do you tell somebody if all that's going on?
True.
When
they haven't seen a lot of each other.
Yeah, and I don't remember the previous interactions between Corsair and Cyclops because the beginning of this, it's like they do not like each other, or Scott doesn't like him. So if it was that, Storm was, I really don't want to tell him that this guy really doesn't like is his dad. Yeah, there's no reason to. Why bring it up?
Interesting times.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I am looking forward to seeing what becomes in the next issues. With that, does anybody have any other things they want to bring up for this issue?
Absolutely.
What?
Is it just Jared's twisted, perverted brain, which we all know exists, but was Wolverine making his move when Kitty Pryde showed up?
Oh, he was. He was.
Because I was like, was he trying to...
That's what I thought, too. I'm like, wait a minute.
Okay, not just me and my pervert brain. Okay, just
sure. That's exactly what I got. It's like, I was about to give her a hug. Get the hell out of here.
Hello, Kitty. Good to see you.
Yeah. Next time, knock. And just don't come materialize through the walls.
Oh, man. That's what I thought was that. I was like, I think Wolverine's shooting a shot here on old Carol.
I think so, too. He's trying to be the comforter that he could be, and...
All right, not just me.
His words, he says, it's all right. Blast. What is it, Kitty? That was the wrong wall to phase through and the wrong time to do it.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, let's go ahead and get into who went the extra mile for this issue. And there might be one or two, I think. We'll see. But we'll start with Gene. Who went the extra mile for you in this issue?
All right. This was tough because obviously it was between Cyclops and Storm. They're both right here. But I had to give it to Cyclops because he was able to back off. We're in battle, but you're the leader. I will do what you tell me. And that just put him over the edge for me.
That is a good way of looking at that. Jarrett, do you agree, or do you have somebody else that went the extra mile?
I do agree. Well, I'll tell you what I didn't like about Cyclops' leadership style. I'm never a fan of a leader who has to resort to violence, and him punching Corsair, I was like, I'm not into that. Like, if you can't make your point through examples and how you behave and the words you use, you're not a great leader. But Gene makes a great point. They both, he deferred the leadership role, and then Delvin made the great point that Cyclops, when she made that decision, I'll hang back. The tactician brain already knew she can catch up. I can't. Her power level can handle this many of these spiders. Mine probably can't. It was a lot of thought that went into it. So in the end, I'm going to have to give it to Peter Corbeau.
Makes sense. I was tracking you all the way
to Peter Corbeau.
Yeah. It all comes back to Peter Corbeau. He is the man of mystery, the man that has
I don't know anything about this guy except he shows up all the time. That's all I know.
He's under contract. He has to have one panel in every issue.
It's great.
But he's always got the baller equipment, and he's just, I'm here. I got all this. Man, what is he doing? What company does he own? I don't know. Oh, that's a good one. Delvin, who is your extra mile for this issue?
I'm not going to pick between them. It's Cyclops Storm.
Yeah, you can pick both.
Stormclops. Cytorm. Yeah, they both, in their own ways, displayed excellent leadership, and not only just in their thinking, but also grace under fire as well. And that's something to be said, to be that leader on the battlefield, that's not easy. And there are many men and women who cannot do it. And Storm and Cyclops, fortunately for them, they're not two of them. They're fantastic leaders. And this was probably the first time in the X-Men that both of their leadership skills were on display at the same time. And it seemed like that was one of the focal points that Chris wanted everybody to see. So it was noted, Chris, for sure.
I will agree with you on that, Delvin, that I would choose both Storm and Cyclops as well for their leadership. Just them working together really showed something, how they were both able to kind of bend and weigh with each other and then work their talents, their skills together to take down, or at least kind of stop the ever advancing spidery kind of things, the aliens that were coming after them. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the ratings for this issue. It's a 1 through 5 rating. 5 is you loved it. It gave you a ring to swing from.
Woohoo.
4, you really liked it. 3, liked it. 2, didn't like it. And 1, you hated it. It turned you into a baby. Gene, 1 through 5.
All right, I'm swinging from that ring. This is a 5.
Ooh,
great art, great story, great characterizations. There's nothing wrong with this book.
All right, Gene coming out swinging with a 5. Jarrett, are you going to match him?
Originally I would say no. I was going to have it at a 4, but through this conversation and Gene's short but correct explanation, I'm giving it the bump up. This is a full 5. I read right through this. It could be its juxtaposition to last issue, making it look like a really, really good issue. But, man, it had a lot going for it. And I'm excited to read the next one. And that's kind of the definition of a 5.
Yeah, that is some good high praise from you. And if you're interested in reading the next issue, whoa, it's definitely got to be a 5. Delvin, 5 or 4, or where are you going to be?
If it helps you, Delvin, what pushed me over the top was this is the big reveal for Cyclops.
I'll read a couple of the comments. First, welcome to Huey C. Onyx, who came in a little bit late. Welcome, Huey. Good to see you again, my friend. Matt Passo says, definitely give this one a 4 for the Storm Cyclops moments and the historical moments. And Auburn Elvis said, 5 is fine. 4 is fine. However, this issue spoke to you is fine. Magnanimous approach by Auburn Ellis. Man, I'm feeling a 4 on this. It's very good, and it's speaking to a bigger threat that's coming, which is Deathbird. And Deathbird, she is very dangerous, her being Lilandra's sister. I think I would have known that without having recently watched X-Men 97. If you haven't watched X-Men 97, it is fan-freaking-tastic and worth your time. It is so dang good.
It is.
I'm going to be a sheep here. You know, Pat, are you going to give it a 5?
Well, Delvin, I am glad you asked. Yes, I am giving this one a 5. It gave me a ring to swing from and then some. Woo.
Then in that case, then I'll use that as the bump then, because the leadership part of it, the dynamic of that, like between Storm and Cyclops alone were good. And then if you take Corsair, who's also a leader of the Starjammers, you had 3 different leadership styles on display in like one of the most frenetic fights that you could possibly have. So, you know, that combined with, you know, the Spidey that we had to read that I wasn't a fan of, combined with the last X-Men that we read, and then we were all like about, I'm okay with going along with the herd and giving it a 5.
Yeah, everybody get up, sing it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Up and down now. Get on down. Woo! All right. Woo! We got a 5. Awesome. And with that excitement, I think that's going to bring us to the end of this part of the show. You got a comment or a question, you can call us and leave us a voicemail that we will play later on in the show. Leave us a message at 707-532-5269. That number is 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
We'll be right back.
Do you like the Transformers?
Yes.
Do you like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Do you like IDW Comics?
And comic book podcasts?
Then come check out Ninjas and Bots. Each week we look at an issue of Transformers
or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from their IDW Comics incarnation. We drop episodes every Saturday morning.
Just like the cartoons we loved as a kid. The show can be found on your favorite podcatcher and at johnreadscomics.com.
See you then.
Welcome back from the break. Now let's get to the feedback part of the show, where we share your comments, emails, questions, and shares in a segment called Crusader Comments. We are thrilled to kick off these comments with special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks that have joined our crusade. They enjoy early access to special LONGBOX episodes, voting to help determine show content, and so much more. These are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Alan W. Wright.
And Helga Wolf.
Elburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Bradley Dello.
Braxton Underwood.
Clinton Robinson.
Captain Entropy.
Clark Westfield.
Dave Collins.
Eric Hodges.
Eric Porter.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary V.
The one, the only, Gene Hendricks.
Some say he's a podcasting machine. Gerald Green.
Heinz K.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeff Polier.
Jeremy L.
Jim German. No, I'm not singing.
Well, we hope you like Jim too. Jim Meal.
You should definitely sing. It's therapeutic. Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland. Therapeutic for me, but not for anyone hearing me.
Candace Ward.
What, you think we give these bits just for their benefit? Kathy Bright, the MVP.
Matt and Lissy Paso.
Mark Ross.
Maxwell Traver.
Michael Minton.
Miranda W.
T.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick of Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.
If we missed anyone on our list, we apologize. Keep in mind that we record these episodes well in advance of release. So if you're a recent addition, we should be adding you soon, but still, no worries. Just let us know that we missed you by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com and we will get it straightened out. As a reminder, you can become a Crusaders Club member by heading over to patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as $1 a month. You will get access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. Come check it out. It's $1. $1. Everybody got $1. Okay, everybody does. A lot of people do. And since we only got like 45, that only leaves about like 7 billion people who probably do have $1. So I'm just saying, you're slacking. I'm rambling. Don't have any extra scratch lying around, but still want to help us out here at LBC headquarters? This is for those other than 7 billion people. Please take a moment to write a review on Apple Podcasts for this podcast. Even if you just want to keep it short with just star ratings, it helps raise the profile of the show, and we will share your review on the next show. We will move on to social media shares and retweets. From Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles 77, we are talking Amazing Spider-Man 221 and Uncanny X-Men 150 from July 1981.
Well, we had one person apparently do a retweet or share on that one, but hey, thank you, Duke Thweet, for doing that.
Oh, yeah, there's a name. I didn't see. That's a name? Duke Thweet?
Duke Thweet. Yeah.
Duke Thweet! His tattoo says Duke. Your tattoo says Sweet.
What does mine say? Sweet! Oh, Jared, am I the only one that got your Duke? Where's my car reference? I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay. We will move on to social media comments. We had a couple from Hard at Work Nick. He says, as someone reading through Spider-Man currently, I'm glad I stumbled onto your show. You seem like a fun crew, and I will be following along. And then, after listening to the show, presumably said, great episode, fellas. Hard at Work Nick, or at the Hard at Work show. Thank you very much. And hopefully you guys can, I don't know. I have not listened to Hard at Work show yet because it's the first time I'm reading this comment. But if you have heard of Hard at Work show, please pass along a thank you to them.
I'll take the next one from Jonathan Schaefer-Hams. And he knows what he did. And what he did was comment and said, wait. Then in another comment, he said, Ramrod takes a backseat to no one. Obviously he did. But
editor's note, Ramrod took a backseat to everyone.
To Magnet, I think?
Yep. He didn't even punch his lights out. He just freaking left them stuck on the magnet. Anyway, Gene, would you like to read the Spotify comment that we have, please?
Sure. Scotty Cameron said, a great episode. Love the review of Spidey and X-Men comics.
Scotty continues to hold us up on Spotify. If anyone else is listening to this show via Spotify, let us know. Please comment via Spotify. We would love to read your comments here. We also have a voicemail. We've said it once or twice, but just in case you didn't hear it, you can call and leave us a voicemail, and we will play it on the show here. Leave us a message at 707-532-5269. That is 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. And thank you to everyone for your likes, shares, follows, and comments. We appreciate your friendship and your help in spreading the word about this podcast.
And that's the show. Be sure to check out the website, longboxcrusade.com, where posts will be made for journaling this crusade. I want to thank Gene, Jared, Jason for joining us earlier, and Delvin for joining me on this episode. But before we go, let's go ahead and find out where the listeners can find us on the internet. Gene, where can you be found?
Well, most of what I'm doing right now is dealing with my voice acting stuff. So you can find me on all the social media platforms at E.R. Hendricks VA.
Definitely go check out Gene, like and subscribe to him, and see all the stuff that he is doing. Delvin, where can you be found?
I can be found on Twitter, DEE_RAY1977. I can be found on Instagram at Delvin Ray. What about you, Jared? Where can you be found?
I can be found on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. And in real life, you can find me at Captain D's enjoying a fish platter. As a side note, I've been sending all my VA paperwork to Gene by accident, which would explain why I haven't been getting any of my benefits.
Fool.
Yeah, I'll forward them to Laurel for you.
And last but not least, Captain D's nuts.
Thank you, Doug.
And speaking about nuts, you can find me on the X at Christatos01. And if you want to interact with us via live chat, like the chat has today, and to be entered in some free stuff as we give away some live raffles, join us on the next episode of Doing It live stream on YouTube. It's the second Sunday of every month at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Check out the Longbox Crusade on YouTube. Like us, subscribe to us, hit that bell, get that notification like everybody does out there. We would love to get that. And you know what? Give us a comment. Just a quick thumbs up and a quick comment helps a long way in bumping us up in the algorithm. That bumps us up a lot. Thank you again for listening, and we hope you have enjoyed this episode of Amazing Spider-Man Chronicles. You got a comment or a question, email us at contact@LongBox Crusade or leave a comment on the LongBox Crusade Facebook, Instagram, Twitter page, or on YouTube as well, all at LongBox Crusade. Until next time, take care, and please join us on the next episode as we continue on the crusade to
Read the ball.
The intro music is provided by musical genius Joe November.
Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You won't regret it.
All songs, song clips, and characters discussed are copyright of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended. We are just fans that like to share our love of comics.
Outtakes.
By the way, you should check out my book, Hamilton vs. Bear, A Werewolf Tale. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, I'm so fancy that I wish they would teach this to kids at school this way. That's how fancy I want it.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this whole meeting. It sounds so good.
See? Thank you, Chris. Chris at BTO and Bat Books. Yes. Chris is here. Wow, it's a show. No, we got Chris here. All right, let's go ahead and
let's talk X-Men. Woo!
I'll read Jason's synopsis.
Wait, whoa! Oh, hang on, Jared. What'd you just say?
Keeping everybody on their toes.
Are we in the mirror universe here?
Wait, what'd Jared say? Oh, X-Men, woohoo.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah, that is weird.
You know, maybe what we could do is if we get to 50 Patreon, Delvin, instead of watching Zardoz, he'll dress up like Zardoz.
Yeah, now we're talking. That's a Auburn Elvis idea if I've ever heard one.
And we'll give them away as postcards to Patreon members.